Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston with DefeatYourCravings.com, and I'm here with a kind-hearted woman named Christine who has agreed to let me record this so you can benefit from her experience and strength and hope and wisdom, as well as her trials and tribulations and stumbles and falls. Right, Christine?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very nice to have you. How are you today?
Good.
Well, what can I help you with?
I have been philosophically contemplating something that I might try a new rule, but even thinking about that has a lot of resistance come up for me. And that's where the philosophical musings come in. And it's about whether the goal is to never derive pleasure from food. So that's something I'm contemplating. Like, is it wrong to derive pleasure from food, or should it just be strictly nutritional?
Tell me your thoughts about that. I have a lot of thoughts about that, but tell me yours.
Okay. So as far as I've come was that it's kind of nice to derive pleasure, like culturally also, it's nice to share that pleasure with others, in that pleasure with others. But on the other hand, if I always got my pleasure from something other than food, I haven't fully thought it all the way through. It's just the beginning. So I'm curious about all your many thoughts.
Okay, I've given a lot of thought to that over the years. I don't think that we would be made to experience pleasure from food if food was not supposed to give us pleasure. And I think we're made to experience pleasures from food so that we don't starve to death, so that 100,000 years ago we wouldn't get more entrenched with the sunset than we would with going to find enough food for our family for the day, so that we got a wide variety of vitamins and nutrients, because part of what tastes good is experiencing that variety. I think it's perfectly normal and healthy to derive pleasure from food. I think the pleasure drive gets perverted in our modern society with things that we didn't evolve to deal with. They're things that are pressing our evolutionary pleasure buttons in ways that they were never intended to be pressed. So the best analogy I could give you is I think what we want to strive for, if we were a city traffic planner, look for those dangerous intersections which need to be regulated. So have your red lights and stop signs and yield signs, which correspond to nevers or sometimes or conditional rules or guidelines. Regulate the danger in the city so that people can navigate the city with pleasure. I think that driving should be pleasurable as long as you're paying attention and you're not running red lights. And I think that eating should be pleasurable as long as you're paying attention and not running red lights. And I think the goal is to figure out where are all the red lights and stop signs and yield signs, and what are all the things you need to have some real guidance about. And then just enjoy the heck out of all the rest. Enjoy your food like you never did before. That's what my opinion is. How does that land for you?
Totally. I like it. It makes sense. And especially the hyper-pleasurable things that we now have make it just a little harder to navigate. Like I'm sure in the olden days with a carriage and a horse or something, you didn't even need stop signs.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, how does that inform the rule that you want to make then?
I'm not sure. I still need to talk about that because it would tighten my food plan in my head quite a bit. So that's why my pig has lots of resistance, lots of things to say. And also because I've made a couple mistakes in the previous days, and I know the recommendations is not to tighten anything after a mistake, but to actually lower the bar a little bit. So those are my concerns.
Well, depends upon the mistake, and it depends upon the impact of the mistake. If you discover someplace in your food plan where you're not protected, sometimes you do need to tighten up a little bit just to be safe.
Hmm.
What you want to avoid is trying to make up for a binge with over restriction. That's what you really want to avoid. Talk to me about specifics, Christine. Tell me more specifically what's happening. We'll figure it out.
Sure. My one rule is that I never eat more than I decide at the beginning of the meal. That's what usually gets me into trouble. It's like, I finish my lunch and it's like, oh, this would be nice, or this would be nice. And so it kind of trails on and on. Not tremendously, but it's like 80-20. That's the rule that would protect me most. And it has. It's worked well. So the rule I am thinking about, because here's the mistake, yeah. It's a guideline really for me that I have 2 meals a day. And so yesterday, and that's an unusual day because it's normally not like that. So maybe that's not even worth talking about. I ate my first meal really late because a doctor's appointment went way longer than I anticipated. And so I got home starving. And even though I had my regular first meal, I eat my regular meal and I feel satisfied just as normal, but I didn't. And so at the end of the meal, I was left still unsatisfied. My rule is I have to make that declaration ahead of the meal. Like, and it can be anything. Like, I don't have any restrictions food-wise, just guidelines. And so there I was feeling unsatisfied still, but I kept with my rule, so I didn't. And the whole time I fantasized about then dinner. And I even thought, oh, I'm just going to have it in 2 hours or so. Well, actually, it was kind of soon. It was 3 hours after, which normally I'd take 4 or 5 hours later. And that I had my regular meal, anticipated that I would feel satisfied after that one. But it seemed like I was playing catch up somehow, at least mentally. And so, again, I didn't anticipate I would still be unsatisfied after my regular meal. And so that's when I think maybe, I don't know, 3 hours later, I was like, I'm going to eat a salad. Even though I wasn't starving, it's like it's my regular meal. I don't have other things normally, but I was not satisfied. So I had a handful of, what you call these, pumpkin seeds, I think, and a bowl of just romaine lettuce with a vinaigrette. And then I even had a bar. I haven't had this in a long time, like just 3 ingredients or 2 ingredients, I don't know, cherries and almonds, crushed up and made into a bar. So I don't have a rule that I can't eat 3 times, but it's like, something's not right here.
So you only have a guideline that you can eat 2 times. And according to your rules, you could have said, I'm going to have a bar and a salad. And even though it's very late at night, I'm playing catch up and that's okay. And you'd jot it down and then you could have your 3rd meal if you wanted to.
Yeah, theoretically, yes. But although this feels off doing it that way. But yes, theoretically. But in reality, what I did was I was going to have a bowl of salad, romaine lettuce with vinaigrette. But I just thought, I'm just going to have a handful of those. I don't even know what these seeds are called. They're green. Oh, sunflower seeds. No, pumpkin seeds. I guess
pumpkin seeds are green. Yeah.
Yeah. And thought, that would do it. But it didn't do it. And so I still had the bowl of salad. And then even that didn't do it. And then it's like, I remembered the other day I was cleaning out the pantry and I found this bar from a long time ago. And this did it. So then I was done.
That wasn't breaking your number of meals a day rule because that's only a guideline, but it was breaking your decide before you eat it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what's your question?
The question I have for myself, do I want to put the rule in place to never eat after a certain time, or even say I never eat more than 2 meals? Because on the upside, I would cut out any wonderings whether I should eat more or not. It's like, no, it's done. It's decided. But on the other hand, I anticipate some major uproaring from the pig saying, you're starving me. And that was never the intention. You're dieting. You shouldn't do that. You hate it. La, 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 all of that stuff. That I'm worried about that part. I'm still wondering, should I even do that? Isn't it even a problem? But I do spend mental energy sometimes because the one thing that I do sometimes, or that I always leave myself open, is that I can have a handful of raw almonds always, at night. That is always allowed in my head, but that mental energy that I sometimes spend on it, should I not? Yeah, so yes, I would like to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think that anything you did is going to keep you out of heaven. I don't think we have to call the Defeat Your Cravings police or anything like that. I think you're taking really good care of yourself and you were managing a difficult situation. So I think you could be kind to yourself about this whole thing, okay?
Yes, thank you.
That's first and most important. The second thing is that the only real problem that I see is not necessarily that you eat later at night, although that probably felt like a problem because you're not used to it, and you don't want to do that all the time. But that didn't really break your rule. What broke your rule was going back and eating something after you decided what you were going to have, right?
Yes, totally.
The second thing is that it is a problem that you broke your rule. You broke your decide about it beforehand rule. And that's the only problem that I see. I don't think it's necessarily a problem that you ate late at night. I think that maybe that's not healthy or that felt like a problem because you're not used to it. But you didn't break any rules to do that, and I don't think you're going to do that with any frequency from what you're describing. This was an unusual situation.
Mm-hmm.
What I think, Christine, is that this is not necessarily a time to tighten up the rules. I think this is a time to say, if I encounter another unusual situation, that I'm not going to feel guilty about declaring more food for myself so that I won't be hungry. If it's a once a month kind of thing and you have to go to the doctor, you get home late, or your sister's cousin's parakeet's birthday party ran over or something like that, and you couldn't get home until late and you couldn't eat, then I would not feel guilty about declaring more food for myself that night. So you don't have to break your own rules. I think this is just a case of a difficult situation. The pig squealed a little bit that you could have the bar, you need something more, because you probably do need something more. You're playing catch up a little bit. Try not to have anything high glycemic during that period, so it doesn't really throw you off too much. And it's like if your baby needs an extra bottle because she had a hard day, you give your baby an extra bottle once in a while, it's okay. That's what I think.
I like that. I feel actually real relieved. Yeah, just thinking about it, it's like, man, do I really, really want that? Because if I commit to this, I'm committing this.
Unless and until it becomes a frequent problem, I think that's all you need to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always about experimenting and watching and then fine-tuning.
Good. Well, that was pretty easy. Do you have any questions or concerns?
Not at all. This seems great. Yeah, I'll definitely keep watching out for when I'm not really hungry, because I have used almonds before, even though they're raw and not very tasty, just for an extra something in my mouth.
Kind of equalize your blood sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. My suspicion was it wasn't for nutritional value or hunger or anything, but really just for entertainment value. It's like something, some dopamine, a little bit. That's my suspicion. So that's why I got suspicious in the first place. Come on, you eat the same thing every single day, pretty much. And most days it's enough. So today it must be emotional. That's my conclusion.
Yeah. And then you were thrown off because you ate in a different pattern. So your body's a little thrown off today. And that's contributing to the cravings a little bit. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Glenn. That was fun. Bye.
It was fun. Okay. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.